The machine provides a new number, and this time it belongs to Riley Cavanaugh, a high-level enforcer working for the Irish mob in New York. Finch and Reese quickly realize this case is different. The person of interest is not a victim, but a perpetrator. Riley has a long history of carrying out violent jobs for George Massey. However, something has changed. Riley has fallen in love with Annie Delaney, the widow of a man he once killed on Massey's orders. His newfound desire to leave his violent past behind puts him in grave danger. Reese begins shadowing Riley, who is sent to kill Annie. However, Massey sends his son Eddie with him. Massey wants to kill Riley too, since it becomes clear that Riley wants to run away with her. But Massey has discovered the affair. Feeling betrayed, Massey orders Riley's execution, knowing he cannot tolerate disloyalty in his ranks. The moment Riley learns he has been marked for death, he goes on the run, not just for himself, but to protect Annie as well. Reese tips Carter off about the location of the accident, and Szymanski is back in action. Reese later loses sight of Riley. Carter meets up with Massey, and he is oddly calm, despite the fact his son was killed. Fusco is listening from a distance.
Merry Christmas.
God bless you.
Finch tracks down Riley's address, and Reese is on his way. Just as Riley goes towards his hidden money, there's a phone in the bag and no cash. Massey is behind it, and his men attack Riley and Annie. Reese intervenes just as Massey's men attempt to kill Riley. He fights off several of them, but Riley shoots Reese as well. Carter is now at the scene while Szymanski is looking for Riley as a potential threat, and Fusco is still in the bar.
Happy birthday.
How did you know?
Fusco is tipping them off everything about Massey's plans. Reese figures out where they are headed and calls Carter. She tells Reese about Szymanski, and it's on Carter not to let Riley get caught. Reese locates Riley and Annie as they get attacked, and he saves them again. Finch is at the police station, there to meet Elias once more. Finch finally reveals that he is behind Reese, but doesn't tell the real name. Finch asks for a favor since Elias's life was saved thanks to him. He asks Elias to shut down Massey's operation, but surely it will come at a cost. Riley and Annie are at the station, and a hitman arrives, kidnapping Annie. Riley is spotted by the police, and Reese is looking for him.
Then why are you wasting time on Riley? He's a killer. He's just bad code.
Bad what?
Forget it.
He finds Riley, and after a confrontation, they get along. Turns out that Riley was the one who killed Annie's husband and wants to do right by her. Though the police are close, Carter saves them from being caught. Riley has an idea of where Massey had taken Annie. Posing as a hitman who caught Riley, they get in. In an intense shootout, Riley risks his life to save Annie. He gets shot but takes out Massey for good. Finch arrives and takes her away. The hitman shoots Riley, and it's too late. Reese gives the letter from Riley to Annie and gives her hope before she leaves. Reese asks what did Elias ask for the cost of favor. Turns out it's to play chess with him. Reese goes to the hitman and takes him out. The new episode starts with a heated mayoral race between Griffin and Walker. A reporter, Maxine, has been exposing Griffin's key fundraiser, Hicks, for corruption. She catches him in a compromising situation and pressures him for information. Meanwhile, Finch and Reese receive her number from the machine, suspecting she may be in danger due to her investigative work. Maxine later gets a call from her editor about upcoming indictments against corrupt NYPD officers. Carter meets with Agent Donnelly, who is frustrated because he still doesn't know who is leading HR. Another officer warns her that whoever uncovers HR's leader needs to be careful. Meanwhile, Fusco gets into his car and finds Simmons in the backseat. He tells Fusco that HR isn't finished and needs a certain piece of evidence erased. If Fusco does it, he can get out of HR. Maxine meets with Quinn, Griffin's campaign manager, who warns her that Griffin may come after her for her reporting. She receives an anonymous tip that Christopher Zambrano, the son of a former mafia leader, is the one running HR. She confirms with an FBI contact that Zambrano is being investigated. Maxine meets Zambrano, questioning him about an argument he had with Donnelly. As Zambrano grows angry, Reese considers stepping in, but Finch warns him not to as Maxine is also working on a story about the man in the suit. Maxine publishes a story exposing Zambrano as HR's leader. Soon after, she and Reese go on a date arranged through an online dating service Finch manipulated. Carter calls Reese to inform him that Maxine's story is completely wrong. Zambrano was never a suspect. Now, every criminal HR is crossed once Zambrano dead. Maxine receives the same information from her editor. Reese takes Maxine to check on Zambrano, but they find him murdered. Donnelly arrives and questions Maxine about her anonymous source. He reveals that Zambrano was actually an FBI witness who was supposed to help expose HR's real boss. Reese and Finch realize they need to find the true leader of HR. Reese asks Fusco to approach Simmons for information, but Fusco is secretly searching for Zambrano's hidden ledger, which holds proof of HR's leader. Meanwhile, Quinn calls Maxine to tell her she's being blamed for the false story. Her editor suspends her. Frustrated, she calls the unknown number that tipped her off, warning them she will find the truth. Reese and Maxine have a drink. She feels guilty for her mistake and is determined to find the person responsible. As they leave, someone opens fire on them. Reese shields Maxine and takes her back to his apartment for safety. Finch arrives, bringing their dog as part of Reese's cover story, but warns Reese that keeping Maxine close is dangerous. Finch identifies the shooters as former FBI agents. Reese and Maxine suspect Walker, Griffin's opponent, may be behind HR. She believes Zambrano's legitimate business dealings might hold a clue. They search a warehouse full of carousel horses recently delivered to Zambrano. Inside one, Reese finds the ledger. Just then, the two gunmen arrive and capture them. Finch calls Carter for help and tells Reese not to fight back as it might expose his identity. Carter and Fusco arrive, causing a shootout. Reese turns on the carousel, creating a distraction. Maxine takes a picture of a key page proving Walker is HR's leader. Meanwhile, Fusco secretly removes pages with his and Simmons' names before handing the ledger over. Donnelly arrests Walker. Maxine publishes her article exposing him. Later, Fusco gives Simmons the edited pages, but Simmons warns that once someone joins HR, there's no way out. Reese and Maxine go on another date. She tells him she's too dedicated to her job for a relationship, then hints that she knows he's the man in the suit, but won't expose him. Finch tells Reese that Walker seems too simple-minded to run HR. The truth is revealed. Simmons is working for Quinn, the real HR leader. In 2004, Finch talks to his friend Nathan Ingram about the machine's ability to identify unusual personality traits in people. He explains that it's learning about human nature. As an example, the machine highlights an artist named Grace Hendricks, who's painting near the water. Finch thinks this must be an error. In the present, the machine identifies Graham Wiler, a seemingly ordinary business owner and family man. Reese checks out Wiler's hardware store and initially suspects he's involved in illegal activities, but it turns out he was just picking up concert tickets for his wife Connie's birthday. Finch discovers that the real Graham Wiler died 15 years ago, meaning this man has taken on a false identity.
Zoe Morgan? Will you be my wife?
To get closer, Reese moves into the house next door, posing as a new neighbor. Zoe Morgan pretends to be his wife to help with the cover. At a neighborhood barbecue, Reese gets to know Wiler, while Zoe befriends Connie. Wiler's daughter, Izzy, hands her father a postcard from Philadelphia, which clearly unsettles him. Reese secretly takes Wiler's fingerprints and sends them to Carter. The next day, Wiler is confronted by a man named Chris Vaughn who calls him Lloyd. Carter confirms that Wiler is actually Lloyd Pruitt, a former small-time criminal from Virginia. His old partners went to prison for 12 years, but Wiler escaped. After Izzy's soccer game, the Wiler's SUV is set on fire. Vaughn calls Wiler, saying they need to catch up. Reese convinces Wiler to let him install a security system, giving Finch full access to the house. Finch confirms that Wiler was the safecracker in his old crew, and he backed out of the heist where the security guard was shot. Wiler starts to feel the pressure and Connie notices his distress. Reese offers him a ride to the city. Meanwhile, Zoe comforts Connie, who shares the story of how she met Wiler. He once protected her from a creepy guy at a concert. In a 2005 flashback, Finch tests the machine's ability to connect random people. It identifies Hendricks again, recognizing her as someone unusually kind and normal. Reese and Carter eavesdrop as Wiler meets with his old partners. They demand that he crack a safe for one last job to make up for the years they spent in prison. If he refuses, they'll hurt his family. Reese hides a burner phone in their truck. On the night of the heist, Wiler leaves a note for Connie and sneaks out. Reese worries that the crew will kill him once he cracks the safe. Finch finds the likely target, a high-end apartment owned by a gem dealer named Cleric. Wiler, now inside the apartment, is working with 4 armed men in masks. They storm a party, take everyone's phones and wallets, and force Wiler to crack the safe. Finch hacks the building's security while Zoe and Reese enter under a cover story. Finch guides Reese through the layout. While Wiler works on the safe, Reese takes out one of the robbers and puts on his mask. Cleric's son triggers a silent alarm, alerting the police. Finch calls Carter and asks her to delay the response. Under pressure, Wiler opens the safe, revealing $20 million in diamonds. Finch activates the building's sound system, creating a distraction. Reese takes down more robbers. Wiler hesitates, almost shooting one of his partners, but Reese removes his mask and convinces him not to. Carter leads the cops up a long route, giving Reese and Wiler time to escape. Outside, Wiler tells Reese about the note he left his wife. Feeling guilty, he decides he can't return to his family this way and turns himself in. Later, Wiler agrees to testify against his old partners in exchange for a lighter sentence. Connie chooses to stay by his side.
It's the part where we get divorced.
Sorry it didn't work out.
In 2006, Finch finally introduces himself to Grace Hendricks.
Hello.
Hello.
Finch informs Reese that they have a repeat number. At that moment, Leon Sung is thrown through a window and lands right at Reese's feet. Reese steps in, saving him from two large Russian mobsters, and takes him to Finch. Since they have other matters to deal with, they leave Leon under the watchful eye of their loyal dog, Bear. Finch then takes Reese to a hospital where he has made a significant donation, allowing them access to a top surgeon, Dr. Madeline, Maddie, and Wright. Shortly after, the staff asks them to leave due to a sensitive operation. Maddie meets with Oliver Velt, the CEO of an energy company, who is undergoing a secret heart surgery to prevent shareholders from finding out. Later, Maddie is at the cafeteria and is surprised by her wife, Amy, to discuss her upcoming big surgery. Meanwhile, Fusco investigates an execution-style murder and finds Carter's business card in the victim's pocket. At the hospital, Maddie is approached by Alistair Wesley, who informs her that Amy is being held at gunpoint. He demands that Maddie make sure Velt does not survive his surgery. He gives her instructions on how to kill him and warns her that any attempt to contact the police or Amy will result in her death. Carter and Fusco examine the back of Carter's business card and find the numbers written on it. They aren't sure what it means. Before surgery, Maddie received a text reminding her of her task. She secretly prepares a lethal injection and hides it in her pocket. Meanwhile, Reese sneaks into Maddie's office while also tracking Amy's location to locate the sniper watching her. Finch manages to delay Velt's surgery by creating a blood shortage. Reese finds the sniper's hideout and takes him down, but when Wesley calls the sniper's phone, he warns Reese that multiple snipers are in place. He demands Reese meet him for a drink or Amy dies. Carter discovers the murdered man was a custodian whose workplace matches an address at 66th Street and 11th Avenue. Reese asks Fusco to watch over Amy while he meets Wesley. Meanwhile, Finch calls Leon for help in identifying who might be targeting Velt. During their meeting, Wesley reveals he has multiple operatives ready to kill Amy at any moment. Reese deduces that Wesley's team consists of highly trained former British military operatives. As Reese tries to gain the upper hand, one of Wesley's men attacks him, attempting to strangle him with a garrote. Reese fights him off, but Wesley escapes. As Maddie prepares for surgery, Finch contacts her, assuring her they are working to protect Amy. Reese updates Finch on the professionalism of Wesley's team. Leon reports back, revealing that his short sale investor stands to gain millions if Velt dies. Finch suspects Wesley's team may be working for these investors. Midway through surgery, Maddie takes a short break, visibly shaken. Finch updates her, but before she can react, Wesley calls, reminding her of the consequences if she fails. Finch and Reese realize Wesley must have an inside informant at the hospital. Meanwhile, Carter follows up on the address from the business card and arrives at a tech company where shots have just been fired. She spots Mark Snow leaving the scene and follows him. Fusco creates a distraction to throw off the men watching Amy. Leon provides new information. Someone inside the hospital leaked details of Velt's surgery to the short sellers. Reese calls Amy on a secure line, telling her who he is and guiding her to safety. Finch warns that time is running out. Carter catches up with Snow, who warns her to deliver a message.
We don't have much time. I don't know what she's planning, but you have to tell our friend. Whatever it is, it's big and I can't stop it.
He then reveals that he is wearing a bomb. Before Carter can react, they are fired upon by an unknown assailant. Inside the hospital, Finch sits next to Velt's assistant, Rains, and accuses him of working for Wesley. Rains, however, seems clueless. Finch then enters the operating room and tells Maddie that Amy still isn't safe. Unable to go through with it, Maddie declares herself unfit for surgery, effectively stopping the operation. Finch orders Reese to get Amy out immediately. Wesley responds by ordering his men to kill Amy. As Maddie begins removing the surgical tools from Velt's chest, Reese gets Amy to safety, until a man disguised as a police officer pulls a gun on them. At the same time, Maddie realizes a nurse on Wesley's payroll has deliberately nicked an artery in Velt's heart. Fusco distracts the fake cop, allowing Reese to neutralize him. Meanwhile, Maddie rushes to save Velt. When the rogue nurse tries to stab Maddie with a scalpel, Finch steps in and knocks her out. With no other options, Finch helps Maddie restart Velt's heart. With Amy now safe, she reunites with Maddie. Leon is sent on his way. Later, Reese receives a call from Wesley, who congratulates him before hanging up and discarding his phone as he heads for a flight out of the country. Carter informs Reese about her conversation with Snow. The warning is clear. She is planning something big. Reese then asks Carter how much more she truly wants to know. And there you have it, another set of episodes that would keep you wondering and curious for more. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon for upcoming recaps.